What if everything you thought you knew about music practice was wrong? Well, it's probably not quite that bad, but it might be close. Here's an insight from neuroscience about how the brain actually learns new things that might totally change the way you think about how practice works. In this video, I'm going to bust this myth that almost everyone believes about practice. I know that I certainly did. I'm going to give you a little bit of the science so you can see what's actually going on and really understand how it works. And I'm going to give you some tips for how you can use those insights to actually get a lot more out of your own practice and make sure you're not wasting your time in the practice room. Hey friends, Morley-Fletcher here, and welcome back to the channel. And the big thing that you need to understand is that the idea that practice is simply about doing a lot of perfect repetitions, it's a myth. Because yes, you do need to put in the reps, but there is something else that is absolutely vital. And if you don't have that, then the reps on their own are no good, because it turns out just doing an action, even repeatedly, even perfectly, is not going to cause the brain to change. And for long-term learning, that's what we need. We need an absolute change in the brain. It turns out that you need to be focused, pay attention, have awareness, as well as those reps, in order to get actual brain change. So without that, just going through doing perfect practice repetitions is not going to get you anywhere. So now I need to explain a little bit of the neuroscience behind this. Don't worry, not too much, because it's all very well me just making claims and telling you this is what's going on, but it's going to be much more powerful for you when you can see how it works and you can really see what's happening behind this. And I want to give a tip of the hat to Professor Andrew Huberman for sharing a huge amount of the science behind this. You can go and check out his YouTube videos, his podcast, if you want to go really in depth. But he gives huge amounts of detail, really long explanations. So I want to kind of break it down for you into a little bit smaller things and to make it a bit more music relevant. And the key understanding here is that the brain only changes when certain neurochemicals are present. And those are norepinephrine, acetylcholine, and dopamine. And you don't need to know the exact chemicals, but it is important to know that there are specific chemicals that when they're present, that gives you the opportunity for neuroplasticity to take place. In other words, for your brain to actually change. And what's happening is when you do those practice repetitions with those chemicals present, then the brain can change. But if you're doing the motions, if you're doing the practice right and those chemicals aren't there, then the brain physically can't actually change. It's not going to develop and learn new things. So what gets you those chemicals in the brain? Well, it's when you pay attention to something. You're aware this is something specifically I want to change. You have that desire and you focus on it. That's what causes the release of those neurochemicals. And so it's paying attention, having awareness of what you want to change that gives you the opportunity to get that brain change. If you don't have that in the first place, then you can do all the reps you like and you're not going to get any results. So if you think about your experiences in real life, hopefully you'll be able to see that this is true. I mean, take this pen, for example. Think about just handwriting, possibly something you do every day quite frequently. And if you think about it, just by writing more and more and more, does your writing get better? If you're anything like me, no, it doesn't. And that's because, when we learned to write, we were paying attention to it, we were focusing on it, and we were able to change those pathways. But if we just write stuff down just because every day and we're not thinking about getting better at writing, it happens, but we're not actually training our brain, we're not improving. And if you look at studies that have shown what happens with doctors after they qualify as a doctor, you'd have thought the more they practice, the more patients they treat, the better they'd get. But that doesn't actually happen. If you look at the evidence, their skills tend to get worse. Why is this? Again, it's because when they were learning, they were paying a lot of attention and awareness to getting better at these medical skills, really learning things. And then when they're just putting them into practice, it's kind of like going through the motions. They're just doing the things, they're doing this hopefully perfect practice, but they're not paying attention to it, they're not desiring change, and so their skills don't actually develop. And if you're finding what I'm sharing with you here useful, then I would really love it if you just click the like button. I really appreciate that. Thanks. So what are the implications of this for your music practice, and how can you use these insights to get better results and make sure you're not wasting your time? Well, the first thing is pretty obviously just be aware that mindless repetitions aren't going to get you the results you want. So don't put your faith in just going through the motions. Instead, you need to deliberately pay attention, and really it wants to be a lot of attention, ideally, to make sure that those chemicals are present in the brain so that the change you want can take place. And ideally, that's not just focusing on what you're doing as you're doing it. It's also taking a bit of time to reflect afterwards, think about what just happened, what do you need to change. It's that engaging with the learning that's really going to get those chemicals present. And the corollary of this is that if you do notice your focus slipping, then it's time to stop, because you're not going to get those results when you're not able to focus on your practice. And the final thing about this is you need to be really clear on what exactly it is that you are doing. So it's not enough just to say, right, I'm going to practice scales and focus on it. What are you looking to get out of your scale practice? Is it a better tone as you play the scales? Is it being able to play them faster? Is it better rhythmic precision? Is it better technical accuracy, that you're really getting all the fingers in the right place for whatever you're doing? It's that sort of attention. What precisely is it that I want to improve? And knowing that, that's what's going to trigger these releases of these chemicals. Now, if you'd like to know more about the common mistakes that might be damaging your music practice, then check out my video on the 4 worst practice mistakes and how to fix them next. And if you'd like the special practice and performance tips that I only share with subscribers, then head on over to playinthezone.com and sign up for the emails. They're free. I've been Morley-Fletcher. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.